Such an obedient group. If I tried this in New York City, I'd still be asking 5 minutes from now. Take your seats. My name is Warren Wexler. I want to welcome you to the 2003 program for the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce. We're thrilled you're here. We've got a lot of great and fun activities to do this evening, and a lot of recognition and a lot of fun. So first I'd like to have our invocation, and we'll be joined by the Reverend Jim Witherspoon. Jim?
Thank you, Warren. Good evening, everybody. Let's bow together for prayer. Lord God, we give you thanks tonight for your goodness and for your love to us. And though we don't stop to think about it every moment, you are the source of every good thing. You are the creator and sustainer, the provider and the protector. Lord, we come to you and we seek you and we thank you for all these good things. Lord, in these days of trouble, we seek you and peace. We pray peace for our families and for our homes, for our communities and our businesses, for our country and for our world. And Lord, we rejoice as we celebrate your blessings to us. Lord, for this meal, for our time together, for the conversations at the table, make us truly thankful. For we give you praise to God, the one who gives us all things. Amen.
Thank you, Jim. That was wonderful. Thank you, Jim. That was wonderful. First order of business. How many people are hungry? All right. Well, before we're going to talk, we're going to eat. And so what will happen? Thank you. Yes, you're going to clap for yourselves. Food is good. So what we're going to do is the head table is first going to head to the back of the room and then walk around to the left of this room and then join the buffet line over there. So first the head table will go, then the chamber table, then the reserve table, then the Econo Foods table, and then the Iowa State Bank table. And then working our way around like a snake, we'll go that way and that way and that way and that way and that way. Okay. So enjoy your meal. We'll be talking to you soon. Head table.
Where's John? Where's he? Is he at the end of the snake?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very exciting evening. The Chamber of Commerce is very happy you could be here. You're probably wondering, who is this guy standing in front of the room, and how in the world did they get him to be the master of ceremonies? How many people are wondering that? I've lived here for 6 years, but I've only been here about half that time. I'm the person who's always on airplanes, coming in and out. But I heard out in the hallway the real reason why they asked me, Warren Wexler, to be the master of ceremonies this evening. One person said to another, he doesn't know us that well. So he can't dig up the dirt. We'll see how true that is. As they're cleaning up the dishes, I just want to make a couple of opening quick remarks about some of our corporate sponsors. I want to thank Econo Foods and Iowa State Bank. Let's give them a round of applause for being so kind to be corporate sponsors. And I understand that the floral arrangements were also brought to us by Econo Foods, and the incoming president and the outgoing president's wife are going to be able to take those lovely arrangements home. So aren't you lucky? That's right. There was a man who sold hot dogs. He was very effective at selling hot dogs, and he was an older guy. He kind of was hard of hearing, so he couldn't listen to the radio, and his eyes were failing, so he couldn't watch TV or read the newspapers. But he made fantastic hot dogs. He stood by the side of the road. He was so happy to be in business. He stood by the side of the road and he would yell out, "Hot dogs! Hot dogs!" He had great hot dogs. He had the best beef, the best sausage. He had handmade buns. He had his own hand-ground mustard, homemade ketchup. He chopped the relish. He chopped the onions. He made great hot dogs. He was so successful that he could afford to send his son to the finest schools. His son got a master's degree in marketing, got a PhD in marketing, and then finally came back And when he came back, the economy was in shambles. There was all kinds of talk about uncomfortable things going on in the world. But his father didn't know any of this. He just stood by the side of the road and did what? Said, "Hot dogs! Hot dogs!" And people came and bought thousands of his hot dogs. The son said, "Dad, don't you know there's uncertainty in the world? Don't you know that a lot of people are concerned about what's going on? You have to cut back. You have to reduce inventory. Why do you have those beautiful hot dogs, that handmade sausage and beef? Don't you know you can buy it mass-produced? It doesn't taste as good, but it'll save you a lot of money. And why do you go to all that bother and aggravation to chop that relish and get those onions ready every day? And why do you have those homemade buns? It's time to cut back. Don't you know things are bad out there?" Well, the old man, he had bad hearing and bad eyesight, but he trusted his son. And then the son said one thing that actually was the fatal blow. He said, "You know, Dad, it's kind of embarrassing when you stand outside there and promote your business. You really shouldn't stand by the side of the road and say, 'Hot dogs, hot dogs.'" The old man took all the advice. He cut back on his handmade rolls. He got mass-produced rolls. He didn't make his own mustard. He didn't chop the onions. He just bought them somewhere else. And he stood by the side of the road and he didn't say too much of anything. Well, sure enough, after a month or so, what do you think happened to his business? It was going downhill, and he said, "You know what, son? You got a really good education. There is something wrong with our country and our economy." And within a month, the guy was out of business. So what does that tell you about what's going on today? Certainly, in every age, there are things that aren't going right in the world. But in addition to all the things that maybe aren't going right, there's probably 10 things for every one that are going right. I got a chance to travel all over the country. Those of you who don't know, I'm a public speaker. I do a lot of business-to-business sales consulting with major companies all over this great country of ours. And I've been in 44 states in the last several years. So I've been in just about all of them. And my daughters who are at home will tell you which 6 I had not had the privilege to go to yet. Anyway, I go to a lot of large cities, and I find out that there's a lot of impersonal nature of what's going on in the business world. And even though this is my adopted hometown, I moved here in January of 1997, every time that plane comes into the Cedar Rapids Airport, and I'm picking up my car and I'm driving back to Fairfield, I feel like I'm coming home. Because these types of things that go on in the world, all the negative nature of what a lot of people have to live with every day, we don't have to worry about that stuff. This is a safe place. It's a wonderful place to be, with fabulous, honest people who are working hard to better themselves. And not only that, they've joined a great organization, the Chamber of Commerce, an organization that exists to help business people do well. It's a place where you can network, where it's okay to talk to people about what you do and find out what other people do, and offer yourself as someone who's a great service partner. I look around the room and I see the person who I bank with. I see my insurance agent. I see my realtor. I see my accountant. I see all the people that I work with on a daily basis. It's a great community we have, and there's so many things that we have going for us in terms of our future. So many wonderful and tremendous things. We have a strategic plan. We just had people come in and give us great architectural ideas. And to say something that may or may not be politically correct, we've got a civic center project that is going to be one of the most wonderful things that could ever happen. So you know how I feel about it. So the fact is, it's a great time and a great place to be, and I'm thrilled to be here to honor so many of you. There's a lot of excitement that's going to happen tonight. A lot of people get awards for service to themselves, to the community, and their businesses. So I'm delighted to be here, and I hope that you join me in sharing an experience that's going to be for all of us to be positive and have a great time and for the betterment of all. So thanks a lot for being here. I really sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm also really fast, so we're going to get to the dancing or whatever the entertainment is really quickly tonight. I want to first invite Dave Reef to come up and spend a few minutes. Dave has a very special award and tribute to talk about this evening. Please join me in welcoming Dave Reef.
Thank you, Warren. This chamber annual banquet is certainly known for recognizing its members over the years for the outstanding contributions to our community. So it is our distinct pleasure to begin this wonderful evening of recognition tonight with a very special tribute for a very special couple. Even though you've stepped away from the duties of Mayor and First Lady of Fairfield, we know you continue to contribute your time to many organizations. Bob and Martha, you have modeled the very best in community service, public and private, on countless boards and groups for more than 40 years. We all have a lot of service yet to do if we are to come anywhere near the level you have achieved. Most of us won't come close. We thought you might like a lasting gift you could enjoy anywhere you choose. So, from the Chamber and FIDA, as one more token of our collective appreciation for all you've done for Fairfield, please accept this portrait, a Barry Ross original.
This won't be a major address, and I do appreciate, Martha and I appreciate it very much. We have done a lot for all of these times, but we did it because we felt there was something to be gained for everybody in this community. And as we look back over these 35 or 40 years, and as we still stay involved in the things that are going on in this community, we hope that younger people will now move up and move along and keep this community going as one of the more vibrant ones in the state. I'm still traveling around the state. I see other communities, and Fairfield still stands out as one of the finest communities in this state, certainly, and as we go to other states, even one of the best in the country. So, again, thank you very much for your tribute to this appreciation. We're very grateful. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Mr. Barry Ross, who's seated right behind them, in case some of you haven't met him yet. Artist extraordinaire. I've been out to his studio, and it's magnificent. Well, the Fairfield Economic Development Group is pleased to be sharing this important evening of recognition of the great new improvements to Fairfield. FIDA is a group of about 90 shareholders. A lot of them are chamber members also. And our common interest is certainly the positive future growth of Fairfield. We have our annual meeting in September, and we'll celebrate 24 years as a not-for-profit organization. So if you aren't a member and would like to know more about it, please call. Any of the board members you see listed in the tabloid tonight. Our board of directors, there are 7 of us regular members and about 5 ex officio, all vital to conducting our charge, which is enabling existing and new businesses find land, buildings, whatever they need to provide the jobs that are so important. I'd like to recognize those members of the board that are here tonight, so please stand if I call your name, or even if I don't. Craig Foss, I believe I saw. Oh, there he is. Thanks. Up here, Ross Walker, Pat Doyle. John Morrissey. Mayor Malloy. Larry Smith is... Anyone else I missed? Okay. Well, instead of giving my normal 45-minute speech right now, elaborating on all the new potentials that I usually leak. I'm going to yield back the rest of our time to the more important matter at hand, and that's the recognition of all the accomplishments of the honorees tonight. So thanks, and enjoy your evening.
Thanks, Dave. There's a long tradition that FIDA brings to Fairfield. I was talking to Bob Phipps earlier today to get some additional background, and there was actually a predecessor. It was called the Chamber of Commerce Development Corporation. It was started in 1956. Now, I know nobody in the room was around then who would remember that. But somebody was. But then they sold $100,000 in stock. And in the first 3 years, they brought 2 companies to Fairfield to create a lot of jobs and opportunities, just like Dave alluded to. Those companies were American Chain and Cable, that many of us know as ACO, and the Rockwell Standard Company, which eventually became Meritor. So FIDA has a long tradition of figuring out a way to attract companies to Fairfield and then have them help us create a thriving environment for all of us. So thanks a lot, Dave, and your people for the great work that you do. Another hand for Dave. All right. I want to recognize somebody who is quite important to me, and that's my wife, Gail. And we've been partners for 20 years. This year, November, will be our 20th wedding anniversary. I've known my wife for 20 years, and she's here tonight. Thank you, Gail. And I also want to recognize the staff of the Chamber. I've had a chance to work with them. I'm on the board of the FEA, the Fairfield Entrepreneurs Association, and I have a chance to interact with Bob and the staff. And it's an incredibly great group of people. If you make a phone call over there, they call you back. If you have a question, they let you know what the answer is. Every week in your email or however you get the information, they let you know what's going on in the upcoming weeks. They put on great programs, from the networking luncheons to programs like this. So I want to recognize Bob and Nancy and Sally and say thanks to them for all the great work they're doing. All right. It's time for another exciting part of the program, and those are the Business Improvement Awards. So can I ask Greg Hanshaw and Sean O'Sullivan to join me up here? Welcome.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Sean O'Sullivan, and there's Mr. Excitement. Greg Hanshaw. Actually, the exciting thing is to see all the improvements that have been made, especially around the square. But a lot of people have made a lot of effort and contributions to improve the community, and we'd like to honor them this evening with the Business Improvement Awards. So I'd like to start with the at-home store, Rosie Witherspoon. Is Rosie here? Rosie opened the store. It's on the west side of the square, November of this past year, and remodeling began in January of 2003. It's in the old Kirka building. If you haven't been in there, please get in and see it. It's beautiful. They have exquisite tiles in the ceiling that make it look like the bright blue open sky. It's beautiful. They started construction in September 1st, thanks to a SBA loan through Iowa State Bank. And they've had a very warm and welcoming reception from the people of Fairfield, and plan to continue growing in the months to come. So thank you, Rosie.
And now for the excitement. 2 evening meetings in 1 week for me is excitement. So here we are. Our next Business Improvement Award goes to CR Quilts. Jeannie Belgard is the owner and operator of CR Quilts, and Jeannie is unable to be here tonight. I hope I'm correct in saying that. If you're here, Jeannie, yell or scream or something. She's quilting. Good. Actually, believe it or not, I've been in Jeannie's store. It's a very nice place. CR Quilts Fabric Shop and Long Arm Quilting opened in July of 2002. Jeannie has all supplies needed to make a quilt, including patterns, books, rulers, cutting supplies, and 100% cotton and flannel fabric. She also offers classes that teach everything from basic quilting to advanced quilting. Long arm quilting services are offered to complete the quilt top. And I know because my wife likes to dabble in quilting that Jeannie's new store is providing a much appreciated new service in our town. So congratulations to Jeannie and CR Quilts. Next is Carol's Home Design Studio, Tom Papham and Deb Sidoris. Tom and Deb here this evening in the back here. Carroll Lumber Company of Ottumwa expanded its showroom facility to better serve the growing need for quality home improvement products and services. Their new 4,000 square foot showroom is located in the old Heilig Myers building at 1401 South Main, along with the new Ace Hardware store. The showroom is designed to address the growing need to show various product choices for both exterior and interior of homes in a customer-friendly atmosphere. Carroll's Home Design Studio also provides design and installation services. All of this is accomplished with high-quality name-brand products and a staff that is committed to exceeding customer expectations in service. Thank you to Carroll's Home Design Studio.
Next we have Gate Ridge Court. Gate Ridge Court building, which is situated on the west side across from MUM campus there, opened in 2002. It's approximately 26,000 square feet of usable space with 80 suites available for businesses. And currently they have 6 separate companies that are housed in that building. And we'd like to ask John Littman, who is the architect, and Wendy Broom to accept the award for that. Next we have Grand Slam Sports, which is on the east side of the square. I think, is that east side there? Okay. Get my directions. It's a retail sporting goods and apparel store, and they also have a service business offering silk screen printing, embroidery, and uniform services. And they've recently hired a part-time employee from Fairfield. And Mark and Trish Boker are the owners and manager, and I don't think they're here this evening, but Bob will accept the award on their behalf.
Our next Business Improvement Award goes to the Hickory House Restaurant, owned and operated by Dave and Renee Gomer. Dave and Renee here? Barb's here. Barb is here to accept this award for Dave and Renee. The Hickory House is a new restaurant in town that had the old soda fountain removed and replaced with a custom-made oak bar with swivel stools. They extended a wall and privatized the kitchen, and wood flooring was installed behind the bar. They totally redecorated the interior and feature framed photographs of Fairfield landmarks as their theme. And I can say, speaking from experience, they have some great food in the Hickory House Restaurant. If you haven't tried it, you should get over there and give it a try. Congratulations to Dave and Renee Gomer.
Next, we have the J.C. Huffman cabinetry and fireplaces. After purchasing the building located on 3100 West Burlington, near Fessler Auto down there, the current home of J.C. Huffman cabinetry and fireplaces, they completely removed everything, completely gutted the building, down to the bare brick walls. And if anyone hasn't been in there, please, it's a wonder to see what they've done in there. I stopped in a week or so ago and totally amazed to see the transformation that not only took place outside, but inside as well. They installed all new windows, electrical, lighting, carpet, sheetrock. They put a drop ceiling in to produce a 3,000 square foot showroom that's extravagant. New roof was put on the building, as well as vinyl siding, and they'll be completely completing the remodeling with the installation of a cultured stone on the bottom half of the building this summer. They also, I think, are going to be putting on a nice wooden deck out there as well. So, Teresa and Jim Huffman, are you here?
Our next recipient is Jody's Touch Hair Salon. Jody Harwood. Where's Jody? All right. I should have known that. I sat very close to you there. Okay, Jody's Touch. In June 2002, Jody's Touch moved to a new location at 204 West Burlington. By doing this, she was able to add 2 more chairs, a stylist, massage therapist, manicurist, a new tanning bed, and more product lines. It's been remodeled, and the building is now a full-service salon and an enjoyable environment for all of Jody's clients. Congratulations to Jody and Jody's Touch.
Living Your Colors Boutique, right off the square across from Iowa State Bank, opened in August of 2002. Bonnie Titus, who is the owner of Living Your Colors, brought her store here from Carmel, California. So it's nice to have somebody bringing in some nice, fresh ideas from the West Coast there. She color coordinates the interior and exterior of the building in various tones of coral rose. The exterior was painted a pink awning, sign, and window boxes were hung. Exterior was painted and a pink one. The interior was also painted. Good. New carpeting, lighting, Italian tiles, and murals were also added. Living Your Colors Boutique, Fairfield's finest, newest women's specialty shop, offers a colorful selection of fine ladies' sportswear, accented with scarves, jewelry, bags, and shoes. Let your inner beauty shine with their new natural makeup. Makeovers, color consultants, and gift certificates are available. So Lindsay Dill, who is their manager, was unable to make it here this evening due to a little flu, but Bob will be accepting the award.
Bob, I love the way you let your inner beauty shine. Our next Business Improvement Award recipient is Norm Gegner from Norm's Rental and Storage. Norm? Norm purchased the property at 504 West Burlington and removed the old house which had been located there and put up new storage units which were constructed with 3 main sizes available. All of the units have lights on a motion sensor and a lip under the door for water and snow-tight seal, which is very important right now and probably will be in the years to come. Congratulations to Norm and your new business, Norm's Rental and Storage.
And next we have Pedrick and Thorne Ace Hardware. The new Pedrick and Thorne Ace Hardware building is located in the former Helligmeyer Furniture Store at 1401 South Main. The exterior and interior of the building were painted. New flooring and all new fixtures were installed in the 21,000 square foot facility. So we'd like to present the award to Don Krieger. Thank you, Don.
The next award goes to Stanley's Restaurant. Stanley Orfanos. Stanley here. If not, then I'm sure Bob would be very happy to accept this award and make sure it gets to Stanley. Stanley's is a new restaurant recently opened in Fairfield after completely remodeling the dining area. It's located, as most of you are well aware, I'm sure, in the old Stever House building, and then Godfather's Pizza and Country Kitchen, and Stanley's has now made it really a very nice place to take the family to go eat a meal. In fact, I have plans to be there early in the morning for breakfast, if you'd all like to meet me there. 6 o'clock. Never mind. They built a new kitchen to personal specifications to accommodate fast customer service and a fine dining atmosphere. Congratulations to Stanley's Restaurant.
And last but not least, Traffic Devices Incorporated. They built a new steel manufacturing plant providing 80,000 square feet of space. Their workforce has increased from 30 to 75 employees. So we'd like to ask Sharon Fitzwater to come up and accept the award. Sharon here. Bob seems to be the big winner tonight, so Bob will be accepting that award. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Greg. Do you all know that you're part of a national organization when you join the Chamber of Commerce? Did you know that? Oh, good. Somebody does. Did you know there are 3,000 chambers of commerce in the United States of America with over 1 million members? Do you know that we have our own building in Washington, D.C. when you become a member of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce? Our Chamber of Commerce is a member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we have a building in Washington, D.C. Did you know that the local Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce has over 330 members? It's amazing. Give yourselves a hand. That's a lot of people. A lot of people for a small town. And you know, we just had a chance to look at all these great business improvement awards. Who says there's nothing going on in small town America, right? Look at all these people buying buildings and starting businesses. It's very, very exciting. Brings us to the next group of awards, and this is all about entrepreneurship. And the person who's going to be presenting the award is an entrepreneur in his own right, Bert Chanowski. Welcome, Bert. Now, Bert has been honored by the state of Iowa. Do you know that people in the state look to us as far as what entrepreneurism is all about in the state of Iowa? We have programs right here in Fairfield that bring people from all over the state to find out what's going on. And in fact, we found out at a pretty late notice, the 11th hour, that there was going to be a governor-appointed committee. And most of those people, wouldn't you think, would be well-connected political types from Des Moines? Wouldn't you think that would be about the way that would go? Yes. Well, we were able to get our own Bert Chanowski on the board, and he represents our interests in our state capital, raising money, venture capital, to bring to Fairfield to help us grow our businesses. So Bert, we really appreciate everything you're doing in addition to running Cool Call, where he's the CEO. Welcome, Bert.
Thank you, Warren. You know, this is a tough spot in the program because I'm sandwiched between Mr. Excitement and the outgoing president, Jim Pedrick. That's a really tough place. I want to acknowledge a couple of people. I have a special guest here tonight, and that's Tanya Richards. She came down from Des Moines. Stand up, Tanya. She's the marketing director for the Department of Economic Advancement. It used to be the Department of Economic Development, but I think I read today that they're going to change the name from IDED to IDEA, and I think that's a good change. So anyway, I was in Des Moines on Monday, and I mentioned, hey, the Fairfield Awards Banquet is so cool. We've got the Entrepreneur Hall of Fame awards, we've got the Entrepreneur of the Year, we've got the Citizens Award, and she was real excited about it and wanted to come down and see it firsthand. So I hope you're not disappointed. The other thing I wanted to acknowledge a couple of people, and that was in the paper on the FEA board members. There's a couple of people that were admitted, and I think they're really strong exponents, and especially since Iowa State Bank is a sponsor here tonight, I really want to honor Dave Neff for his contribution to the FEA, as well as Connie Boyer. Chuck Espy's name was left off here, but I don't think he's here tonight, and he's not really a sponsor, so we won't you see him, say, hey, tough luck. But we appreciate Chuck's contribution as well. The FEA is really, as Warren said, has taken some steps forward this year. We've gotten a little bit more politically involved, influencing to some degree the legislation in terms of venture capital tax credits for startup companies in Iowa. And some of you may remember about a year ago we had a group of state senators come to Fairfield more than once to really garner ideas from Fairfield as really a bellwether or a beacon city in terms of entrepreneurial growth in Iowa. We have now at least a monthly events with the FEA, and our average attendance is about 40 members. We've worn out our welcome at the library. I didn't know if you knew it, but you can only use the library meeting room about 3 times a year per organization. We've had lunches at the country club. We had a session last weekend, and this was a real high water mark for us. We had over 50 people at a seminar featuring our very own Warren Wexler, and it was just, now people are asking me, hey, when is the encore performance or the encore presentation? Because it was so well received. It was such a great event. And I really want to appreciate Warren's contribution for that, because we recently received a grant from the Community Vitality Center for $10,000 if we could match that, and we matched it in about 5 minutes because we matched it with contributions for the likes of people who, like Warren Wexler, to donate their time to put on an all-day seminar, which was just fantastic. So thank you, Warren. We've got some great plans for this year, but what I wanted to say about our meeting space, we are really in need of meeting space. So if there's one group in this community that really could use, say, like a civic center for meetings and conventions, it's the FEA. What I would like to do, I've got a couple of awards to give out tonight. What I'd like to do is, last year we inaugurated the Fairfield Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame, and I'd like to begin tonight with the Hall of Fame Awards. And, you know, we were talking earlier about FIDA, and it wasn't really 1956 that the precursor FIDA started. It was in 1888. I went through and read through some of the old ledgers and stuff, reread some of the sections from A Fairfield, and there was a young gentleman who was born in Ohio in about 1827 and grew up on a farm there. When he got old enough, he started moving west and ended up in Iowa on his way west, and actually grew up or started his business with about $50 of capital in a little town called Trenton, Iowa, just north of Mount Pleasant. And was started out as a blacksmith, and he was in the right place at the right time because there was, as you probably remember from the history books, there was a huge migration west to California, gold rush. These were, just really the gold rush days. And so a lot of people would drive through, and this is on one of the main trails west. The wagons would break down, and so he would start repairing wagons, repairing axles, and what have you. And then he started to building wagons. And he started building what we call the Charter Oak wagons. Kind of outgrew his facilities in Trenton, Iowa. And the business leaders in Fairfield in the previous years had really lobbied hard to get the railroad to come to Fairfield. And what they did, they started to lure this gentleman to come to Fairfield with several economic incentives. Loans for, cheap, low-interest loans for the land, loans, what they called subscriptions in those days to get get his business up and running, a new plant build. And this was the gentleman I'm referring to as Joel Turney. And he built the wagon works in Fairfield. It was really one of the first major manufacturers. They had wagons really in 8 different models, but the most famous ones, the deluxe ones with the spring seat, was the Charter Oak, and the economy wagon was called the Fairfield wagon. And in the 1880s, economy started booming again. It became the largest employer in Fairfield. And the wagons, I think the top selling wagons were about $83.50. And they had a capacity, really the peak years were between 1910 and 1920. And they manufactured about 5,000 wagons per year. And it wasn't all easy for Joel Turney. Here's a case where his entrepreneur who faced a lot of adversity in his life. And in those days, it was really personal tragedy. He married Sarah Morrison in 1847 when he first moved to Iowa. And she was the daughter of one of the first Iowa settlers. And I've got notes on this, but it's some reason I'm remembering all the details. It's really great. It's a great story. But anyway, his wife died 2 years later. He remarried, had 5 kids, and over the course of the years, he lost 3 of his children. But still was a real stalwart in terms of building his business. After being in Fairfield for 10 years, or about 11 years, that factory burned down. They rebuilt it. It's now, it was replaced by a modern brick building, and later served as the Philco plant offices. Anyway, we want to honor tonight Joel Turney. I was actually at the library late last night reading the Fairfield Ledger from July 5, 1905, because Joel Turney had died about a week earlier, and I wanted to see what it said about him in the obituaries. And it's just a short thing, and I'll just read it for you. And they describe Joel Turney as a strong and vigorous in his mental powers as he was physically. He was a free and independent thinker and quick to express his thoughts. In fact, the writer described him as being really tough on anybody the first interview or first meeting he had with them, but then he kind of, just to test their mettle like steel, but he was always so much pleasant after that. He was philanthropic. He was wholly broad-minded in affairs affecting the welfare of the community. Please join me in welcoming Joel Turney as the second member of the Fairfield Entrepreneur Hall of Fame, standing next shoulder to shoulder to A.K. Harper. The next Hall of Fame award goes to a gentleman who was actually born in Ireland. His family immigrated to America in the mid-1800s. They ended up on a farm about 8 miles southeast of Fairfield. This particular gentleman, in those days, you really had to contribute to the farm work, and he couldn't contribute as much as others because he just wasn't strong enough. He had some health problems throughout his life, so he really contributed in a lot of other ways to the family farm and farmers ever since. And the person I'm referring to is William Loudon. And in fact, he was, at the age of 23, he almost died of inflammatory rheumatism. But he was, if we want to call this area Silicon Valley, it's really because of William Loudon's pioneering innovation in terms of applying technology to really providing labor-saving devices for farmers. And you know, most people in the world know William Loudon in the same breath as John Deere or Cyrus McCormick in terms of the impact on a farmer's life. He started out by, in fact, when he was about 26 or 27 years old, he applied for his first patent, which was a hay carrier. He made those in the family barn, and later moved to Fairfield and started building them here. In 1877, they restarted the company because they had earlier had gone bankrupt. And the reason they had gone bankrupt, there was a panic in the 1870s. Well after the Civil War, there was a booming economy, and then people got nervous and the stock market crashed and all that, and a lot of businesses went under. He was undeterred and totally committed to making his business work, so he got on a wagon and started going out, basically going door to door to farmers and showing his labor-saving devices and tools that could help these farmers. And he really knew his customers well. He worked extremely hard. They restarted the business, or really incorporated in about 1887, and he brought his brother R.B. back from Long Beach, California. He had gone to law school, had a real estate business in Long Beach. Imagine what that would be worth today, but they came back to really run the family business, and they thrived. William really stood back and was the inventor, was the inspiration, really created a lot of things. Some of the things that he invented, I know some of you know, some of his patents were the first flexible door hanger. He had a conveyor belt system to move manure out of barns. So he figured, well, now they got the manure out of the barn, what am I going to do with it now? He actually invented the first manure spreader. But what he's really famous for is really the impact on dairy barns, and that's stainless steel stanchions. You know, all the different devices that automatic cow watering bowls, the barn litter carriers, and certainly the door hangers. And later on, he went to a trade show in Chicago, and people were looking at his devices, and a manufacturer came up to him and said, geez, this conveyor belt system, do you think we could apply it to our factory? And of course, later on, Loudon Machinery Works was famous for really outfitting most factories, or many factories in the world, with the overhead conveyor belts to move goods through the factory and what have you. The Loudon Machinery Works is a tremendous history in Fairfield. They have a tremendous reputation around the world, and is really considered the Cadillac of the manufacturing world. There are currently, I was talking to Mark Schaefer the other day about this presentation. He says, well, you know, there's 14 registered historic homes in Fairfield that are associated with the Loudon family. He says there's hundreds of barns. In fact, last year, Van Buren County had a barn tour, and a lot of those barns are Loudon barns. In about 1906, they provided a free barn design service for farmers anywhere in the world. Why? Because the blueprints included Loudon devices and Loudon designs, because it really changed the way farmers did work from having the hay up above. By the 1930s, there was 30,000 barns in the world that were Loudon designed barns. You know, the what we know as a Broadway building. I wish now that I know all the history on that building, I think we should refer to it as the Loudon Building or the Loudon Machinery Works. It's interesting, it's wonderful. If you haven't been into Regina's Bar, they now have a lot of the Loudon pictures and paraphernalia up on the walls. But it's also interesting, over the last 15 years or 20 years or so, that building having been really one of the really great factories in Fairfield has now been recycled into probably incubator and has started dozens. It's a place where dozens of local businesses have started. William Loudon remained active in the business until he died in 1931 at the age of 90. And of course, many of you know the history of the Loudon Machinery Company since then. Again, I referred to the Fairfield Ledger. They described William Loudon as one of the Fairfield's most enthusiastic salesmen. And he had this to say at the Rotary Club meeting on June 7th, 1929. Fairfield is regarded by all who knows it as one of the best small cities in the country. Sounds familiar. It is as free from factional strife as any city in America. Nearly all the countries in the world buy goods which are manufactured in Fairfield, even Africa and Asia. All that Fairfield has to do is follow the example set by her citizens of the past, and her future is assured. And I think these words ring true today as they did in 1929. Please welcome William Loudon to our Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame. Every year for the last 10 years or so, we've given really great honor to the Fairfield Entrepreneur of the Year. And what's great about Fairfield, it's sometimes a tough choice to pick who is the Entrepreneur of the Year. Last year was Barry Harper, and last year was Barry Harper, and this year's Entrepreneur of the Year shares much in common with some of the Entrepreneur Hall of Fame awards that we've had in the past. This year's award recipient also moved west to Fairfield from the Washington, D.C. area. He also overcame some personal tragedies in his life. It took him 10 years to generate that first $500,000 in annual revenues. And that was about the time he moved to Fairfield. And he moved to Fairfield in 1992, and his company has expanded to over 80 employees. And this year, will have grown from $500,000 in revenues 10 years ago to nearly $70 million in revenue in 2003. And this particular company, Cambridge Investment Research, hopes to grow to about 250 employees in Fairfield. They oversee $7 billion in client funds. It ranks as one of the top mid-tier securities broker-dealers in the Midwest, if not all of the United States. And what they do is they provide, and you've probably seen some of their signs up around the square and probably didn't know what they did. They provide product and back office services for approximately 600 independent financial advisors nationwide. Cambridge is ideally suited for Fairfield. I think it's a real poster boy for a success story in Fairfield. They provide stable jobs, good paying jobs. The company doesn't have any debt. They don't have any plans to be acquired or move out of Fairfield, and they have experienced very steady growth, even in spite of, some of the economic setbacks. Eric Schwartz is the founder and the president of Cambridge Investment Research. Eric is really an entrepreneur's entrepreneur because he told me he's only had one job in his life, and that was managing paper boys while he was in college. So this is a real entrepreneur. Please join me in welcoming the 2003 Entrepreneur of the Year, Eric Schwartz.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I looked up the definition of entrepreneur, and it says the derivation comes from two words. One is persistence, and one is stupidity. In my case, the stupidity came first because I started this business, which is, the most highly regulated industry in the world, very complicated, and my one experience was a $1.65 an hour job in charge of paper boys. Not surprisingly, both myself and the company were literally insolvent, that is negative net worth for half of our first 10 years in business. And that is when we moved to Fairfield. In fact, the only employee that moved with me is my now wife. The rumor, Mary Sue, who's sitting right here, of course, the rumor that I married her so I would not have to pay her a salary anymore is entirely not true. But I do want to accept this award on behalf of our approximately 80 employees in Fairfield and 600 financial planners around the country. I do think that most entrepreneurs learn that one of the key secrets is to hire people better and smarter than you, and then work really hard to convince them that you're still important and they should give you the highest salary in the company. And I've mostly succeeded in that for quite a few years. But seriously, I think that the thing that gets me going into the office every day, I started in the investment business because when I was 10 years old, I was following about 25 stocks and gave my first stock tip to my parents at that time, and they tripled their money in about 6 weeks, only to discover 3 days after they sold their stock that the company was delisted from the exchange for illegal manipulation. They were unable to track it back to me, fortunately, so I was able to continue. But the other thing that, on a serious note, if there is such thing in my brain, the thing that makes it really great to go into our company is the very thing that makes it great to get together with people like we have here in Fairfield, is that I sit around with my top executives who have all moved here in the last 3 or 4 years from other parts of the country to help augment the great staff we have from local people here. And we get around and sit around and basically say, what is it that we can do that's really great for the investment public? What is it that's really great for our financial advisors and for our employees? And gee, how much would it cost to do this new thing? And gee, would anybody pay that? And if the answer is yes, we get to go out and do it. That's really great. It's like, what can we do to make the world a better place? What can we do to treat people really well? And I think that's what it's, in the end of the day, what every entrepreneur is all about, what every company is all about, is, hey, what can we do to make things better? And Fairfield is a great place to do that from. We appreciate the great support we've gotten from this community, and this recognition of the great achievements of our whole company is deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. What are you doing a year from tonight? You want to be the master of ceremonies? All right. I always thought the definition of entrepreneur was unemployable. That's what got me started. All right. Our next part of our program is to hear from our chamber president, and we'll hear from our current and about to be chamber president in a moment. I want to tell you something about Jim Petrick. I've had a chance to be in meetings with Jim, and I didn't really know him that well until the year he became the president. And I'll tell you, he is such a dedicated and honest, and one of those people that probably saw Woody Allen in the movie Annie Hall. No, you didn't see that movie? Okay. When they asked the character that Woody Allen played, what's the secret to being successful in life? Woody Allen, without missing a beat, said, the secret to success is showing up. And I'll tell you, when you're the president of the chamber, you get to show up a lot, don't you, Jim? I don't think he ever missed a board meeting that I was involved in, and he was always there to listen and to participate. He never tried to take over and say, you should. Don't you hate people that sit around and tell you what to do? He really took the spirit of the job to heart and did a great job this year. So I'm really delighted to hear what Jim has to say to us. Please join me in welcoming Jim Petrick.
Well, I was pretty believable, Warren. Now, one thing that I learned this year was to never forget to...
We planned that. You could have told that there.
Oh, boy. Never to forget to introduce your wife. My wife, Gwen. Well, and I want to tell you a little bit about pressure. Before we started up here, Mike Carlson came up and he says, "Hey, I'm expecting to be entertained." Well, Mike, I want to tell you, you ruined that last year. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. Of course, the microphone springing out of the stand didn't really help, and after last year's speech, Mike came up to congratulate me, and he said that I really reminded him of Jerry Lewis, which the microphone thing, I can see why. But, you know, Jimmy Stewart I can take, but Jerry Lewis. But before I do turn over my new leaf and turn serious here, I had never really thought until Bert mentioned it that entrepreneur rhymes with manure. Maybe the Sons of the Sagebrush could work that into a routine for the farm barbecue. Well, this has been a great and a fun year. We tried several new things successfully, like having new member luncheons. Devlin spearheaded the successful fish seminars, which everyone enjoyed. We had a Chamber of Commerce blood drive. The community design project was a big highlight towards the end of the year, and a project that we think will pay big dividends in the future. And of course, the highlight of the year was our 75th anniversary banquet. It was a great pleasure sharing this podium with Fairfield's own Tom Loudon, who got a standing ovation and deserved it, as well as our keynote speaker, Chuck Offenberger. That was a great treat of the year. And I want to thank my fellow board members for their support and hard work during the past year, and especially the executive committee. Devlin Wilson as president-elect. Larry Smith was a vice president who chose not to be here tonight. I guess he didn't realize what kind of a going-away present I was going to give him. Susan Booth, Debbie Davis. Jay Mitchell couldn't stand me for a whole year. He left the country. And Bob Moore finished out his term as a vice president, and we appreciated his talent. And Jody Kerr, of course, stayed on as treasurer as past president. And thank you all to these board members. You're a great bunch of people. It was a pleasure serving with you. Okay, now it's time to talk about unfinished business. And the two items that I want to touch on are the Jefferson County Civic Center and the Fairfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. Politically correct or not, the Chamber of Commerce is 100% behind the Jefferson County Civic Center. And I want to, these are two very important items for 2003. There are other important items. You know, we can't survive only on a civic center. Obviously, we need to keep working on things. And thanks to the groundwork done by the Strategic Planning Commission, we have some great ideas and are working on ways to work harder on economic development in a lot of ways. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau itself will be a good start on doing some economic development and attracting visitors and money to our community that we can use for further development. The Civic Center brochures, I guess maybe they're not at your tables, but they were on the table when you came in tonight. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about, and strongly encourage you to vote yes on May the 13th, and join me in supporting the project financially if you haven't already. Myron Gookin's close to the door. Maybe he's left already when he heard what I was talking about. There's been a lot of discussion about the city budget this past week, and I think Myron did a great job in the ledger of explaining how we might have to tighten our belts a little bit in the short term and still support this major community project, which is going to be a big asset to Fairfield. And people need to understand that the vote coming up on May 13th, it's not a vote on a new tax, it's a continuation of a tax that's already in place for another few years, and we're just extremely fortunate to really get two projects out of one vote. The interest rates allowed the jail to be paid off sooner, And in this case, low interest rates are good. Of course, only the automotive industry can give you 0%. In addition to funding for the Civic Center, this vote will allow more money to flow into the city for other, quote, lawful, unquote, purposes. Who knows what the council would spend it on if they weren't restricted to lawful uses? Well, the way the tax has been going, 80% has been going to pay off the bonds for the jail, and with this new vote, only 70% would be required to fund the city's contribution to the Civic Center, and the other 30%, which I think could easily be more than $180,000 per year, will be flowing into the city coffers for these lawful uses, which some of them are very important. Some people wonder if the Civic Center will support itself or if they will ever utilize it. Well, my answer to that is I hope you feel like you will go to the Civic Center a little more often than the jail. Now, the brochure that you can pick up on the table, if you haven't already, lists many of the possible uses for the Civic Center. And I think it's a little bit like the Field of Dreams. When we build it, they will come. Now, I don't mean to imply that anyone on the Civic Center board is hearing voices. Well, maybe Ken Norton. No, they're not counting on dreams. Really, they're estimating quite conservatively. If you look at similar facilities in Oskaloosa, Washington, Marshalltown, you can see that they have 80% occupancy of their facilities. And our Civic Center board is saying that they can break even at a 40% occupancy. And that's just based on rent. If they happen to sponsor a big event or a theater production that they could sell tickets as well as rent the space, then that lowers the break-even point even more. So, in summing, it's a great project. I hope that I'm just preaching to the choir here, that you're all behind it like I am, and you can encourage other people to agree with your point of view. Lots of individuals and businesses think so. They've already donated or pledged $2.5 million. The state of Iowa thinks it's a great project to the tune of $800,000. So let's rally around it, vote yes on May 13th, and quickly raise the rest of the money to complete this important project for Fairfield. Well, now that's it for me. It's been a pleasure serving as Chamber President in 2002, and I wish Devlin the best in her year, and thank you all for coming tonight. Okay, I'd like to recognize some directors that are retiring this year after, well, I guess in both cases probably 6 years or maybe even 7 years if you counted another year as a past president. Jody Kerr and Debbie Davis are going off the board after 6 years of loyal service. Thank you very much. Come up and receive. Okay, next on the agenda, I have the privilege of giving anybody an award that I want to. And that's kind of a hard choice. There's a lot of people out there. Well, one thing I've tried to emphasize this year is that the president of an organization is really not the most important person around. It's, he just is the one that was gullible enough to say yes. But there's a lot, in any organization, there's a lot of volunteers that really make things happen that are indispensable. And so with my President's Award this year, I want to recognize someone who has been a very important part of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce for the past 6 years. This person has been a vice president for 5 of those years. This person has been involved in the following committees: holiday events, men's and women's blast-off, 75th anniversary, community relations, ambassadors, and actually helped lay some of the bricks at the Heritage Courtyard. In my year as president, whenever anything was going on, good that is, I was sure to find Debbie Davis right in the middle of it. Just because she's leaving the board doesn't mean she's quitting either. Instead of just fading into the sunset, she's still there at every events committee meeting. The only thing she's refusing to do now is handle the snowflakes for the holiday committee. She and Jody have put her foot down on that. But Jody, come on back up. I have my President's Award for you this year. Thanks a lot. Thanks much. I think it's the sinus infection that made it sound like Jody. Bob's getting kind of old. His hearing's not too good. Well, now it's time for the moment I've been waiting for a year now, and that is passing the gavel and laying the heavy weight on the shoulders of my successor. Oh, and here's her speech here. Should I look at it?
Yeah.
So, Devlin, I don't know how you handle all this, but congratulations and good luck.
Give you a chance to catch your breath. Ready?
Well, good evening. There's a lot of notes up here. I'm not sure which speech I should do. And Jim, I congratulate you. Did you notice he was only 10 minutes? I thought for sure that he'd be much longer than that. But although that's what I said, he can make a 30-minute speech seem like 10 minutes. I mean, because he's enjoyable, he's funny. I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to serving the chamber in this capacity. But before I tell you about some of the things that we're looking forward to in 2003, I want to give Jim a special thank you for his leadership this past year. One of the things that we found, when he started off last year is having us imagine all the things that we could accomplish. And we did that pretty easily under his guidance. So thank you, Jim. To do this. Can you get this to pop out, Jim? Okay, you can hear me. All right. I'm not as short as you guys.
You can be replaced.
But in addition to that, it's kind of, I have a different view up here. Normally my audience is in seed corn caps and Carhartt, so it is an honor. I'm here before business people. However, when I do address, my audience is normally the farmers. They, too, play a special role in business. I've learned a lot about Fairfield and Chamber of Commerce's that I didn't know, while serving on the board over the past few years. Keith Woods, a senior analysis on chamber trends from the California State Chamber of Commerce, spoke at a conference that Jim and Nancy and I attended last November. And one of the things that he referred to was chambers do the things that most people think just happen. And it's very true. A lot of us, shook our heads and said, that's for sure. A successful chamber, though, needs talented professional staff, and we're fortunate that we have that. Bob, Nancy, and Sally do a majority of that work, of the things that people think just happen. So I, too, would like to thank them for the work that they've done. And I think once you get inside, just like with any business, you see a whole different perspective, and you're able to appreciate that a little bit more. Now I'd like to take just a moment to introduce those on the board this year. If you would just stand, do the little beauty queen wave so everybody can see you. I know one of Larry's not here. Not everybody knows everybody, so that way we'll do this. Larry Smith is president-elect for next year. Sean O'Sullivan, who you've met earlier, is vice president of promotions. Sean's in the back. Craig Hanshaw, vice president of internal relations, whom you also met. Bob Bob Moore, who isn't able to be with us, is Vice President of Economic Development. Susan Booth, Vice President of External Relations. And then Jim Frederick will serve on the board one more year as treasurer. He's got the best beauty queen wave, doesn't he? The other directors on the board are Jim Sherman, Debbie Carlson, Lisa Greening, Lisa in the back, Tom Toohill, who's not here, Tim McCaleb, nothing here, Tammy Dunbar is new to the board this year. Welcome, Tammy. Patty Adam, who's also new to the board this year. Doug Faust from Jefferson County Hospital, who's not here. Okay. Ex officio, Mayor Ed Malloy. Jefferson County Supervisor Mike Pesch. Michael Spivak from Maharshi University of Management. James Witherspoon from the Ministerial Association. And then our associates, Doug Bagby represents Fairfield Area Development Foundation. Ron Long from the Manufacturer Association. And Dave Reeve from the Fairfield Economic Development Association. The group that I just introduced, we had a full day in December, and we normally do that once a year. We go into a planning retreat, and we look at things that we accomplished, things we didn't accomplish. This year we talked about things that we thought are going to be challenges for us in the year 2008 or 5 years from now. Something similar to what the strategic plan had done, but not quite as in-depth. We also looked at what some of our 2003 goals were. I'd like to briefly touch on those. We, of course, had a list. We had to narrow those down to the top 10, I'm sorry. And you know, the rocket scientist approach to that, where everybody gets colored dots or, you know, a marker, and you make marks on there for the ones that score the highest. So that's kind of how we have these. However, they are, you know, very strong priorities for us. Our first one happened to be establish a Convention and Visitors Bureau in conjunction with the city, which would involve hiring an individual to run that show. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, a lot of people ask, you know, how, you know, doesn't the chamber already do that? How would that be different? And there probably are some things that we would have in common, that we would do similar. However, they just have much more force. They have a stronger capacity to do the selling and the advertising and the marketing for Fairfield that we need, and actually to draw in tourists and bring people from that 4-lane highway they're going to be driving by in a few years on the bypass into town. These individuals would actually have the opportunity to attend something similar to what the rest of us do, whether it's a livestock expo or a home expo. There's actually expos for those individuals to attend, for other people to find out about Fairfield and come this direction. So we're excited about that. We're hoping to get that off the ground this year in 2003. Public relations was another one of ours. It's important for us, we feel, to tell the chamber story. Going back to what I said earlier about doing the things that most people think just happen. We're wanting to explore some things to let people know, you know, as far as what the chamber does, what it makes happen. And we want you to feel like you're getting a return on your investment. We have our newsletters, of course, and our websites. One of the things that we have decided to do this year, and Bob handed it out at our last meeting, was keep a request log summary. Probably you're not aware, and I wasn't either until the staff talks about it and Bob talks about it, but they receive hundreds of phone calls a week. Referring for businesses that are members, asking for information on non-members, providing informational packets for students that were wanting to write reports, people that are vacationing in June, they want events calendars or things like that. And there's also relocation packages. Those are just, you know, a few of the things that they do, but we decided to try to track that and find out, what area and what we spend a lot of time on, and that way we can get that information back out to you, so you can see maybe how many times your business is being referred. Jim talked a lot about the Civic Center. I'll just touch on that too. And as I had said, in my letter, I do believe it's one group that's definitely looking ahead. They've spent hours gathering data, doing their homework, and now trying to educate the community about a facility that has opportunities to provide lots of things for all of us. Not only providing that spark or that link to our downtown. It's a facility we can all use. There's a lot of, people think, oh, only the people that go to plays are going to have an opportunity to use this. But we know that there's going to be a lot of other things that can happen with that. The group has also proven, that they're very proactive in the operation of the facility, and that they're going to see through that it is successful. And I believe that, they'll do that. It's not just, okay, we get it built and we can go home, put on our jammies, and and not worry about it anymore. But they are, it is going to be something that is going to be successful. And I think the Chamber is looking forward to what role we can play in making that a success also. The next two, a market needs study, would be developing a marketing plan and getting that plan in motion. Also beginning an economic plan with the city and with FIDA. Those two goals kind of tie in with some of the things that the Strategic Planning Commission has asked of the Chamber. That commission, another group that spent hours and received lots of public input into helping draft a long-range plan for the community. The Chamber supports the strategic planning vision, and the Chamber has been asked to play a major role in implementation of that plan. We've accepted lead responsibility for the objectives asked of us. We did go back and ask them to tweak it a little bit, which I think that they've done. And we're anxious for the plan to be unveiled. I think the long-range plan is definitely looking ahead. Facilitating a retail forum. We were wanting to lay some groundwork for retailers or for downtown. Dr. Ken Stone, who unfortunately had to cancel on January 23rd due to some complications from surgery, is a professor of economics, and he's been an extension economist at Iowa State University for 26 years. I have not listened to Dr. Stone speak, but I've heard he's excellent. He does a lot of research on the community he comes into. He has a lot of background. He talks about trends, economic studies. So I think, not only for our retail sector, but for business in general, I think this would be an excellent forum for all of us to attend, hopefully when we get him rescheduled this year. And our retail and downtowns have come under such microscopes by communities, and it's an area of great frustrations in many towns, not only, with businesses leaving, businesses staying, those that shop there. And it reminds me a lot in agriculture, a term, dear to many of us, which is the term the family farm, which has gotten a lot of publicity, just like our downtowns. We want to know, how do we save them? What do we have to do different to keep them here, to maintain them like they are? And what we hear is, well, because darn it, that 160 acres has always made a good living, and I've been able to raise a family. Well, because darn it, when I was growing up, there's always been 2 men's clothing stores in town. Unfortunately, we've seen farming operations change significantly over the past few years. They've grown in size to make ends meet. They're doing different things to make it happen. And I think sometimes the things that we want or we need to save have completely turned into something different. And I think some of that applies to our downtown. But I feel we're on the right track. I think downtowns attract, or small downtowns attract, for their uniqueness. And we have some specialty shops and some niche stores that I think we're on the right track to that. I was shopping in Timely Solutions, picking up some stocking stuffers at the holiday time, and there's a girl on a cell phone. I'm talking to somebody, and she was so excited. She says, "We're in Fairfield. They have such cool stores." And it's true. I think there's a lot of things out there, that we can take advantage of. One of the other top 10s was funding for the events committee. Gosh, you guys, I thought I'd get yay. Yay! They finally got a line on the budget this year. So they were excited. But the events committee works very hard on projects all year long. Right now they're focusing on the business showcase, which is going to be right here March 15th. It's on a Saturday. That's sold out already. It's from 9 to 3, so if you're not participating, please stop in and see not only what Fairfield has to offer, but with maybe some other Jefferson County businesses. Summer Concert Series, which we know was a huge success last year. They're working with Park and Rec and with the city to get those going this year, make them bigger and make them better. And I heard that they're going to start maybe as early as Memorial Day weekend, so that's kind of exciting. Another thing that the events committee currently is working on is promotion bags. I know they've solicited from some of the chamber businesses. If any of you have some things to put in them or would like to offer to be handed out to groups as they come to town, please let the chamber know, because I know they'd love to have some more items to put into those groups. How many of you know in here that Fairfield held the first 2 Iowa State Fairs? A lot of you, yeah. One of the things that we're trying to do is put together a task force, or we have actually done, we've started, and there will be some more task forces, I'm pretty sure, by the time that rolls around, which is next July. But they're going to be holding their 150th anniversary in 2004. Because Jefferson County hosted those first 2 state fairs, the Jefferson County Fair Board and Bob and I met one night prior to February 10th when Bob and about, 6 or 8 of you attended a meeting with the Fair Board and presented some of the ideas that we'd like to see happen or start here. A wagon train. Did any of you ride on any of those wagon trains that went to, you're not old enough? Mike Carlson. We told you this was going to be entertaining. Congratulations. Well, that's what they're hoping, to start something like that. And also we'd like to get some kind of a kickoff celebration that starts in Fairfield also. And in my understanding is they were pretty excited. They went from, you have 20 minutes on our agenda to an hour and a half. Yeah, so we're hoping that leads into something even bigger for Fairfield. Increase involvement of members. That sometimes talks about recruiting, involve more members on task forces. This is another area where we're wanting to know what we can do for you. Are we meeting your needs? What are some of your interests? Ken Stone, Keith Woods, the first guy with the K. He said all oh my. Must have been that drink. All success is built on exceeding expectations. And that's really, our key this year is we want to exceed your expectations. So we want you to feel like you get a return on your investment. So we're going to be exploring some ways to meet those needs of yours. A low-interest beautification fund, very similar to the revitalization loan fund that we already have in process. A big thank you to the banks for making that happen. This idea is kind of behind the areas that maybe will need to be addressed from issues that the city would like to have implemented downtown as a result of the community design team with the Iowa Architects Foundation that came this past fall. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to spend some time with them. It was a group that came in, did a lot of work in a short period of time, and if you were able to see any of the work that they did, you would appreciate that. The results of that, they retransformed our downtown on a computer and made pictures and took out the parking meters, which everybody at the meeting was yay and laughed about that because that's been an issue for so long. But the results were really pretty amazing. Jerry Long spent the weekend with this group, providing his expertise to the project. So we're hoping, if we need some type of fund to do those type of projects, that we'd be able to get on board like we do the Revitalization Loan Fund. And again, that covers the top 10 of those. Hopefully, and I'm sure that we will address many of the others that were also on our list. A couple of thank yous that I'd like to make. FIDA, as Vice President last year, I did have the opportunity to set in on some of the FIDA meetings. I didn't get to as many as I would have liked. But they are a very, very talented group of individuals that have a strong allegiance to not only developing and recruiting business to the community, but to maintaining what we have. Fairfield Entrepreneurs Association, and you saw that tonight. I bet I probably get an email from Bert once a week, on all the things that they have going on, and I think that's great. But as you can see, it's an active association that is responsible for Fairfield having the reputation it does of being a very, very strong entrepreneurial community. So I think both of those organizations thank you for being a part of the chamber. And my biggest disappointment tonight was that Jim's parents weren't here. Jeff was supposed to slip your mom a 20 so I could get a standing ovation when we were done. However, we'll have $20 now that we didn't spend. But I would, again, like to welcome new members. Congratulations to those of you that received Business Improvement Awards tonight. And I think we've got some pretty special things coming up. Here, a couple more announcements on Citizens of the Year. Again, I expect it to be a rewarding year for not only myself, but for the Chamber and the community of Fairfield. So thank you.
Thanks, Devlin. If I get invited back next year, I promise to be taller. One more thing. Welcome back, Devlin.
Thank you. I was just kind of getting ready to be done here, but this is a pretty special award. This is a Past President's Award, presented to Jim Pedrick for outstanding leadership and service as President of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce 2002.
Thank you, Devlin. Pretty exciting stuff, huh? Listen to all those great things we have going on in our community. It's really fabulous. Yes, applause. It's great. As a community, we really can't stand still. If you're standing still, it's almost like you're moving backwards. The only place you can go is forward. Just like an organism, if you're not moving forward, you're dead. You just don't know it. So all these great things you've got coming up are very exciting. And as Abraham Lincoln said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so we've got a real vision that Devlin has shared with us on where we're going and how we're going to get there. So thank you very much. All right, we've got a couple more things to do, and then we'll be done. But they're very important things, and they're called the Outstanding Citizen Awards. I'd like to invite Sarah Cochran to come up and give the first one. Please welcome Sarah Cochran.
I did want to say, Jim, your mother called just to make sure that you introduced Gwen. And one more thing, many of you know, but some of you don't know, that Devlin and I grew up together in the tiny town of Tipton. And Devlin, I promise not to tell any stories about you growing up if you promise not to tell any about me. Deal? All right, got that out of the way. A little worried. Is this going to jump? I do want to say, first of all, before I get started, that it is definitely an honor to me to be able to give this award tonight. And when you write one of these speeches, it's really it's really amazing how much information is out there and how much these people have done for our community that most of us don't even know about. So I can only share a little bit of it. I didn't quite get the same amount of time limit as Bert did, but maybe I will next year. So honestly, it's really a humbling experience to know that we walk in the same circles as people that we talk about tonight. But without further ado, I want to tell you that this year's recipient of the 2002 Outstanding Citizen of the Year may have eaten more graduation cake and wedding cake than any other member of our community. Now, laudable as that might be, cake eating is not a basis for the Outstanding Citizen Award. The Outstanding Citizen Award is given to a member of our community who has made a significant contribution to the betterment of some aspect of community life. It is, it is based upon the record of volunteer service devoted to the growth and improvement of the community. So we have significant contribution, betterment of some aspect of community life, volunteer service, and growth and improvement of community. This year's recipient fulfills each and every requirement and then some, with quiet dignity and strength of character. Requirement number 1, significant contribution, teaching over 1,000 youngsters. Requirement number 2, betterment of some aspect of community life. This recipient has had a positive and enduring influence on more children in our community than most of us can ever imagine. Requirement number 3, volunteer service. 24 years coaching Little League, 23 years coaching basketball, more than 1,000 games coached, bantam bowling. I wanted to see that. I suppose that's with those chickens. Challenger Little League, Special Olympics, high school track, and more. Requirement number 4, growth and improvement of community. The effect this year's recipient has had upon the community is probably best told to you by those who have experienced it firsthand. He is the best coach my son ever had in any sport at any level, bar none, writes one parent. Another wrote, he is more than a baseball coach. He is a life coach. Another parent wrote, every time my son came home after practice, happy and content, I felt he was being given the gift that is so rare these days, the passing of the precious knowledge of life onto younger ones. A referee wrote, it is refreshing to see coaches like you, positive, encouraging, and perhaps most importantly, able to keep things in their proper perspective. A player wrote, he treats everybody as a person first and a player second, never giving special treatment to his star athletes. He never made winning a higher priority than offering guidance and support to his players. Or another letter, children are not black or white, townie or MSAE, rich or poor. A child is simply just a child. Now let me tell you something about our recipient that you may not know. Our recipient was born in East Brunswick, New Jersey. At age 17, he came to Fairfield to attend Parsons College. Here he ran track, wrestled, and ran the Parsons bowling alley. He graduated with a degree in business while working 2 full-time jobs. He has worked at Falco for 35 years and has missed only 3 days of work. He has the record for 19 years of perfect attendance at his bowling league. A doctor's scalpel and hernia operation cut short that streak. I'm sorry, I had to say cut short. So. But what motivates our recipient to spend countless hours mentoring and thousands of dollars out of his own pocket so that his teams could have the best equipment? His love of the game and his love of the kids. It's that simple. Our recipient's father died when he was 11 years old, and his Little League coach became the most positive influence in his life. After his team won a game, this coach took the team for ice cream, a tradition that our recipient continues today. For years to come, our recipient discussed each season with his beloved coach. Although his coach has passed away, he still keeps in contact with the family and continues to pass on his coach's knowledge and love of the game and his desire to make the game fun for everyone. We thank your coach, Brendan Dowling, for the legacy he provided to us through you. Our recipient is married to Shirley, and they have 3 children, Lori, Neil, and Denise. They also have 5 grandchildren. Our recipient keeps in contact with his team members throughout the years. One former player wrote, he never breaks his connection with former players, but remains aware and involved in everyone's life. Another former player wrote, to this day, 20 years after I played on his Little League team, he still asks how things are going with my life and my golf game. Did you know that our recipient sends Christmas cards to all his players? He doesn't just sign the card, he writes a genuine personal note to each one. It means so much to the kids, writes another. Besides all the wonderful mentoring, he continued to keep in touch. He attended many high school games and always made a point to encourage them when things weren't going so well and congratulated them on their successes, writes another parent. He has been a positive influence on thousands of our children, at least 2 different generations. Imagine the possibilities of each of those 1,000 children positively influenced, say, 5 other kids who were a positive influence on maybe 2 other children's lives. You do the math, it's phenomenal. Oh, and on that issue of exactly how much graduation cake and how much wedding cake he assumed, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. He doesn't like cake. But he continues to go to all of those weddings and graduations anyway. Not only do we honor our own Jersey boy, one who's been accused of being Fairfield's oldest teenager, but we say thank you to our 2002 Outstanding Citizen, Rich Stokes.
Thank you very much for the kind words. It makes it tougher to speak up here without any notes, but I'll try to say a couple of things. I value the friendship with the kids. I value the memories. It's been awesome along the way. I got started in this by doing Little League. I got a phone call one day, and they said, we need one more coach to coach the team. And they said, it's really simple. You only have 12 players on the team, and it shouldn't be any problem. So not being able to say no, I said yes. And what happened was, the one thing they left out, they forgot to tell me about the 24 parents that come along with those 12 players. I survived that over the years, but I've always enjoyed trying to improve upon myself each year. I've never really been satisfied. At the end of each year, I critique myself and try to do a little bit better. As far as the basketball, I got myself in a lot of trouble. One day I read an article in the Ledger where they advertised for a basketball game, basketball junior high game over in Tacoma. I figured, how much trouble could a guy get into in one little basketball tournament? Well, of course, that turned into taking 2 teams the next year, and then 3, 4, and 5, and it got to be kind of a big, massive event. But the kids really loved it, and why I liked it so much is that it seemed like it was a weekend happening for all the parents and the kids, and a lot of good came out of it at that time. But it actually got so big, and I really needed some help. The good news is I have a good friend who I tapped him on his shoulder, and I kind of gave him a deal I didn't think he could refuse. And of course, that was my good friend Bill Moore, who I've done many of these basketball games with. And I kind of presented it to him. For one thing, he was the 9th grade girls basketball coach, so I kind of gave him the idea this was going to be a nice feeder program for him. The only minor things that he had to consider were the fact that he was going to have to give up all his weekends in January and February so we could do these tournament games. I thought it would be a classic idea if we started the instructional basketball at a lower level. So that was going to give up all of our weekends in December. This was going to consume about a 20-year project, so I didn't think it was too big a deal at that point in time. And then I'm trying to think ahead a little bit. What we did host a few tournaments in town. I explained to him that then we're going to start taking these traveling teams. We're going to do the 5th grade girls, the 6th grade girls, the 7th grade girls, and the 8th grade girls. And I said the bonus to this whole thing, as I recall, was that we were going to do it for free, and we're going to pay for everything. So I really couldn't understand why he had a problem with that, and that's what friends are for. Okay. And the only thing I'd like to share with you is a story or two, and then I'll get out of here. But these kids do wonderful things. They say wonderful things that just warm your heart. But I had a game, I believe it was the 6th grade girls. We had a classic game. They very seldom score a whole lot of points. It was a real barn burner. And I think we scored the winning basket with about 15 seconds to go. And of course, all the kids are all happy and hugging each other and all that kind of stuff. And as you know, in showing sportsmanship, you go through the line to wish the other team well. Well, we get to the other end of the line, and the player on my team turns to me and says, "Coach, who won that game anyway?" So in some ways, you can see how neat this really is. I'll share one other one with you, too. And this is one that anybody who's had me as a coach knows I talk a lot. But this is the one young lady in my entire coaching career that silenced me. I had nothing else to say. We had a game. This was 5th grade girls now. And we had a game where we were watching the other team warm up. And the other team was obviously a little bit bigger than we were. And the kids were a little nervous. So I said, "Hey, don't worry about that. They're bigger. They got to be slower. We're faster. This is going to work out. Don't worry about a thing." Well, about 3 minutes into the game, I was behind 6-0 already. And as we said, these games don't get to be very high scoring. So I knew that we needed a timeout because I had to change the strategy plan. And the girl comes over to me, believe it or not, comes over to me and says, "Stokes, do you know all those girls are wearing bras?" Total silence, 100 things going through my mind, and the only thing I could do is go back on the court. I didn't say a word. So again, I thank you for this wonderful honor. I think I'd like to steal one line from probably the word that was most overused by my Little League team from last year, and if I could say it to you, sweet.
Good evening. These awards are really something special, I know. It is my privilege to introduce this next Citizen of the Year, a person I've known for a long time. I was aware of some of the contributions this nominee has made to the community. However, the list is more impressive than anything I had ever imagined. In his quiet and unassuming way, he has been making a difference. He is active in the following organizations: the Fairfield Area Community Fund Board of Directors, where he is currently serving as president; the Fairfield Economic Development Association Board as an ex-officio member; the Caloo Senior Housing Project as an ex-officio board member; the Greater Jefferson County Foundation Board of Directors as an ex-officio member; a director of the Fairfield Area Dispute Resolution Association, an ex-officio member of the Jefferson County Law Enforcement 28E Joint City-County Service Agency, a member of the Jefferson County Joint Enhanced 911 Board, the 8th Judicial District Youthful Offenders Program, where he serves on their board of directors. And he is a member of the Tenco Foundation Incorporated Board of Directors. He chaired the Fairfield Tenco Workshop Building Capital Fund Drive and has been a member of the Tenco Advisory Board. Since his youth, our Citizen of the Year has been contributing his services. He received the Purple Key Service Award while in college at the University of Northern Iowa. He was a law intern in the Catholic Charities Legal Clinic, the Black Hawk County Legal Aid Society, and the Hawkeye Legal Services while he was in Iowa City. He served on the Cheyenne River Sioux Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse as a member of the Board of Directors. He acted as a legal aid lawyer for Native Americans in South Dakota. He served on the Sioux Youth Development Association Juvenile Group Home Board of Directors in Eagle Butte, South Dakota. He raised money for the needy around the world as a member of the Catholic Students Mission Crusade. He has served as a member of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. He was a Jefferson County Historical Society Charter Board member and was awarded honorary life membership in 1990. He served on the Crime Stoppers Incorporated Board of Directors. He was a merit badge instructor for the Troop 34 Boy Scouts of America. He served as a Longhouse Council representative in the Y Indian Guides. He served on the District 15 Multidisciplinary Child Abuse Consultation Team. He was a member of the Jefferson County Statutory County Compensation Board. On the Southeast Iowa Interagency Drug Task Force, he was the Jefferson County representative on the Board of Directors. Nice long list, isn't it? I'm sure you have already guessed that our nominee is an attorney. He is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Jefferson County Law Bar Association and Secretary-Treasurer of the Jefferson County Law Library Association. He is the President of the Jefferson County Bar Association and the President of the 8th Judicial District Bar Association. Our nominee was born in and grew up the oldest of 5 children in Waterloo, Iowa. He received degrees from the University of Northern Iowa and the University of Iowa College of Law. He has admission to and memberships in more than 10 professional law organizations. He is a member of the Lions Club, in which he served as president. He also belongs to the Walton Club, where he was the vice president and served as a member of the board of directors. He has been active in his church. In St. Mary's Parish, he has been a religious education instructor and council member. As a Knights of Columbus member, he has served in many offices and received many awards. Our nominee loves to hunt, fish, and hang around at his cabin. He also loves antiquing. He is a homebody who enjoys being with his family. This Citizen of the Year is a devoted husband and father who is proud of the accomplishments of the 6 grown children in his family. The children said, "Our dad has always been the type of person that takes the time to show us and teach us whatever we need to know. He has given us funny nicknames, shown us the best way to use any tool that you can think of, and is constantly seeking out new fun things for us to do. We are able to relive outings that we have taken and things that happened and laugh about the good and funny times. Dad has a wonderful sense of humor that brings joy into our lives. He makes us feel that we are so very important to him. His sisters wrote, "He is the kind of dedicated person who is willing to go the extra mile. His honesty and integrity are two words that describe his life, whether it's his personal life or his work ethics. Words that describe him are caring, unselfish, dedicated, compassionate, funny, and someone we can always count on in difficult situations. He is so generous with giving of himself and is such a forgiving, kind man. We are proud to call him our brother." And his wife wrote, "He does these things and belongs to everything that he does because he sees a need where he can help. This is the personal side of him. This is who he is. He is my husband and has endeared himself to me by being the most gentle, considerate, and kind person that I have ever known." Ladies and gentlemen, our Citizen of the Year is Irish attorney and Fairfield City Attorney, John A. Morrissey.
Well, I just spent just an amazing few minutes continuously leaning over to my wife and saying, "Where are they getting this stuff?" And I should have. I don't know. I was thinking that the day could have gone a little bit better. A good friend and myself were in Des Moines most of the day, and we had our ups and downs and had a level day. But this is just totally unexpected, and I'm overwhelmed. I came back to Fairfield because it was a place I thought would be wonderful to live. And I had grown up in a town that was 10 times the size, had a lot of different problems up in Waterloo as I was growing up, but it was always a town I enjoyed. I had most of my family there, and I still love it as a town. But after that, I went to a town that had 400 people. And it was in the middle of an Indian reservation that had 7,500 people. And the places in the state where I sometimes went with the family to get a little R&R, so to speak, were Pierre, South Dakota, which is their very lovely state capital, and a town that's actually about the size of Fairfield. And between that and a friend of mine in law school that was here and loved it, and I practiced with for 20 years. I got to come back here in summers and visit Fairfield and so forth. I just thought this, between myself and the family at the time and so forth, couldn't have been happier to come back to a community like this to raise our kids and so forth. Now it's a community that I'm just as convinced is a wonderful place to see the grandkids grow up in. And I'm blessed because they're coming along, the families growing, the families staying around here. And while we have a few splinters in Utah and so forth that we see once in a while, generally there isn't that much about Fairfield that I could tell you that is a whole lot different than it was 30 years ago, from the perspective of it being a wonderful place to bring up a family, a wonderful place to have an opportunity to do things. I don't think I've ever had a dull day since I've been here, or a week I didn't think was rewarding in some respect, or a year that I couldn't look back on and say there were an awful lot of people that did things I admired and that they stayed right here in our community and shared it with us. And so this I never expected. I'm very much humbled, and I thank you again very much.
Thank you. We have a lot of remarkable people here in Fairfield, don't we? From generation to generation. Let's give them a big hand. It's time for some housekeeping things. Mark your calendars for March 15th, the Chamber Business Showcase, and that is right here. Is that right? Yes? Let me know it's here. Okay. It's at the Best Western right here, March 15th. Anybody who received an award tonight, can you please stay after the official program so you can have your photograph taken? And I want to just close with a quick story about how important it is to get involved in things. Listen to all the stories about the people who came here, Bert's stories about entrepreneurs from over 100 years ago, the stories we heard about some of the award winners, the business improvement people, Eric's story, and John's story, and the person from New Jersey whose name I can't remember's story. It's okay, I'm not from here. Help me out. Thank you. These are fabulous stories. You know, it reminds me of something that I heard a long time ago. There was a young man that wanted a lot of things out of life. And so he decided the way to do that was to win the lottery. So one day he went to church and he said in church, in front of God, I want to win the lottery, and I can do a lot of good things if I win the lottery. Well, sure enough, next Sunday he went to church and found out he didn't win the lottery. So he raised the stakes. He said, listen, God, there's many things I want to accomplish. A lot of people need what we have to offer. We can help them, but we need the money. I need to win the lottery. Help me win the lottery. Sure enough, the next week came, guy didn't win the lottery. Third week he goes back to the church and he says, you know what? I'm going to make you a deal. Half the money that I win from the lottery, I'll help with the church. I'll put it back in the community. All you need to do is have me win the lottery. He looked up and he saw that the roof of the church was coming off. And he looked around and nobody else noticed this but him. He saw the heavens open up in the swirl of the clouds. He did a double take. He looked around and noticed that only he could see this. He looked up and he said, God, is that you? A booming voice came down. Yes, it's me, and I need to say something to you, John. And John looked up and said, what's that, God? God looked down and said, help me out. Buy a ticket. Being successful in business, in life, in the chamber, and all these wonderful things you heard about people tonight is all about getting involved. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whatever it is in life, don't forget you have to buy the ticket. Thank you very much for attending.